Welcome to the second of tonight's two debates, or candidates forums, if you prefer. The second will feature the two candidates seeking the two-year seat for Attleboro State Representative position. The two candidates are the incumbent, the Democrat, Jim Hawkins, and the challenger, the Republican, Julie Hall. They will answer questions this evening from our two panelists, Bill Gouveia. Bill is a columnist for the Sun Chronicle, often writes about local government, and Paul Healy, who is the radio talk show host on WARA AM 1320 weekday mornings. Paul and I go way back, Bridgewater State College, but that's going way back. And the timer this evening is my daughter, Bridget Gay, who's volunteering. Thank you very much. I want to thank everyone at AACS, everyone at the Sun Chronicle, and all of you here, and of course, those of you watching at home. If you watch the City Council debate, which ended moments ago, this one's a little bit different in the fact that with only two candidates, we can do a little bit more with it. The two candidates will not only answer questions from Bill and Paul, they will also get a chance to ask each other questions. That will be the second half of this forum. It's a format I have used in North Attleboro for the last 5 or 6 years, and the candidates really seem to like it because the whole forum isn't based on, well, that question wasn't asked. You get a chance to ask that question. And the people at home and the people in the audience have always enjoyed it as well. We will begin with opening statements. The order of everything we do this evening was based on a draw just a few moments ago. And the first opening statement of 2 minutes will be delivered by Jim Hawkins. And Jim and Julie, I just want to point out to you that Bridget will hold up a time cue at 1 minute, one at 30 seconds, one at 10 seconds. When she gets to stop, I'm not going to say stop. If you could finish up your sentence and try to keep an eye on that moving forward. So best of luck to the two of you. Jim, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Jim Hawkins. I'm the current state rep. I'm a retired teacher from Attleboro High School and a former small business owner. I'm very proud, in short order, as state rep, starting in April, that I've been able to keep my promises. The very first day, I introduced a successful amendment to fund Attleboro's initiative to create a student-focused alternative to MCAS, and in short order, I was also named chairman of a subcommittee on education. I was able to keep another promise for opioids. My maiden speech was based on the opioid crisis just before the passage of the opioid bill, which probably sets the tone for the rest of the country. And I organized just last week a symposium on opioids with a lot of experts from different varying fields to discuss what we need to do next. I've initiated legislation for real estate tax relief for seniors who are on a fixed income. I've supported legislation for children being raised by their grandchildren. I got a $50,000 grant for Attleboro firefighters for health and wellness equipment and cancer screening. I've actively opposed the compressor station. It's near the Ponson Hewitt Fields, and I'm an advocate for gas pipeline safety. And I've supported legislation to provide early release of funds for Attleboro so they can repave the street repaving earlier in the summer. And I'm working for a solution to the dangerous intersection at Exit 3 by the Shell gas station. Thank you.
Julie, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the moderators and the panelists for hosting this event, and to everyone who came out here tonight. I'm Julie Hall. I've served in the Air Force for 30 years before coming to Attleboro. In a challenging environment for women, I rose from the very basic enlisted rank to be a retired colonel. As a single parent and a member of this community, I understand how important it is to have a safe environment and a great quality of life. As a city councilor, I know firsthand the impact that decisions made by the government can have on our citizens. My local civic involvement began serving as a member of the planning board. In 2015, I was first elected as a city councilor at large before resigning in September to help save money for the cost of yet another special election should I be so honored to win in November. I'm most proud of my work to help bring new businesses into Attleboro and for my constituent service. When I think of the changes that I've achieved in our city, from the community gardens that I helped to build, to the rezoning and repurposing of the old Watson Newell factory at 67 Mechanic Street, which is now transformed into much-needed income-based housing, I know how I have helped this city move forward. When tackling tough issues and working with a team, I will continue to apply a solution-based, common-sense approach. I can see how my hard work has produced tangible results throughout the city, and this makes me very proud. If I'm elected your state representative, we can continue this great work together.
Thank you to the two of you, and before we move on, I forgot to mention this to you before we started the debate. I often tell candidates that the people in the city council chambers tonight, chances are they probably already decided who they're voting on. The gentleman with the blue shirt, the blonde hair, is operating the camera where probably thousands are watching at home. So that is where I suggest you look. Bill Gouveia will ask the first question of the evening. Julie Hall will get the first answer. The candidates will have 90 seconds each to answer. Bill?
Thank you and welcome. You guys look familiar. It seems like we might have seen you folks before. It's only been about 8 months or so since you both ran for the same seat. From that election experience and in the 8 months that have followed, what have each of you specifically learned in that time period that's helped you now and would make you a good, a good candidate for this job and a good state representative?
You know, I think for me in particular, you don't want to be the one to lose, but it does put you into a different perspective. And you kind of look at it like, what's the worst that can possibly happen? And so you only have to go up from there. One of the things I learned in particular is that it's really important to get out and be with people as much as you possibly can, to continue to be out with the people and get to know what they really want you to bring to this city. So I think that's probably the best thing that I've learned.
Jim, same question.
Same question. It's been an eye-opener for me. I started as a teacher, so I assumed that the first thing I would do would be to look out for public education, and I did that very well with the amendment for the standardized testing and my chairmanship. But I discovered, knocking on doors and going to local community events, that there's a lot more to the city that needs our attention. Low-income, fixed-income seniors, grandparents raising their grandchildren, and probably the biggest of all is the opioid crisis. Opioid deaths in Attleboro went up by something like 600% between 2013 and 2016. Attleboro is ahead of the curve with the police POP group and the drop-in center on Murray Church, but that has probably become my priority over education. It's the single most important thing we need to work on in the city.
Thank you. The second question will be asked by Paul Healy, and Jim, you will answer first.
What I'd like to ask, but won't, is how important is it to suck up to the Speaker of the House so that any of your concerns will even be discussed, debated, or voted on? But instead of asking that, I'll ask about your leadership style. And what I mean by that is, are you a leader of constituents or a follower of constituents? So if you believe the answer to a certain problem is X, but the majority of your constituents believe the proper answer is Y, do you try to promote your view X, or do you speak for the majority of your constituents and support the Y solution, whatever the issue is?
I pride myself in listening. It's my views are very clear. I haven't been shy about those, but I've tried very hard to listen to what people are telling me are their needs. I've done that. You've asked a couple questions there. I've acquired some pretty good relationships in the State House. A lot of state reps have come to campaign for me. I've got a lot of help with the legislation I put through. I do get good support in the House, but my job is not to impose my views on the city of Attleboro, but rather to listen to what people tell me the real needs are. Thank you.
Julie, same question.
Same question. Can you just repeat the question?
Is it the state rep's job to lead the constituents or to follow the constituents? So if you believe the proper answer to any question is X, but the majority of your constituents believe the proper way to go is Y. Do you promote your view X and try to change their minds, or do you follow the will of the majority of your constituents and support the Y solution?
Yes, thank you. So one of the things that has a reputation here in Attleboro is someone that does a lot of research. I look at both sides of the issue. I know people often don't like you looking at both sides of the issue because they want you to go with their side of the issue. But one of the things I do is I do like to research. I do like to have that information, so when I do come down and make a decision, I think that people understand why I've made that decision. And that's something I'm going to continue to do if I become the state rep. I need to look at things very carefully, and I'll continue to look at things very carefully. And I hope that people appreciate that that's the kind of leadership and the kind of an analytic viewpoint that I will bring to the state representative seat.
Thank you. And Paul, stop asking such difficult questions. I forgot what the question is by the time they were done as well. Bill Gouveia will ask a question. Julie will answer first, and then Jim.
Thank you. Every candidate for state rep and several other offices always say that their big goals are securing more local funding, lessening the burden on senior citizens, spurring economic development, and increasing educational funding. That's all really nice, but if it were that easy, everybody would do it. How can you convince voters in your district that you would be able to do a better job of doing those things than your opponent?
Well, I've already shown that I'm a candidate by being on the city council who can produce results. That's what I've done my whole life. That's what I've done here in Attleboro. I was an advocate for 3 small businesses here that are now thriving, and they will bring revenue into this city. So that's one way that I've been able to tell people. If I go around this city, you can see some of the things, some of my work that is very tangible. 67 Mechanic Street was something that was in my committee. It was repurposed for 55-plus income-based housing, something that we needed very much in this city. So as we walk through this city, I can see things that were part of what I did here in the city. So there are some results, and I pride myself on that.
Jim?
I'm particularly proud that in a new environment, it wasn't really a new environment because I worked as a Senate District Coordinator for MTA, so I was already familiar with the area delegates from the surrounding towns, and I was already familiar with the legislative process. But as a newcomer to Beacon Hill, I got something done the first day. And within a couple of weeks, I had money for the firefighters, for health and wellness equipment that won't come up in a normal budget. I was named chairman of the committee. I was instrumental in the passage of the important opioid bill. I've already done a lot. I've already proved that I can produce things on Beacon Hill in that environment for the people of Attleboro.
Paul Healy will ask a question. Hopefully it won't sound like an SAT question this time.
What's the square root of pi? No. I'll make this quick and to the point. Should the 2nd Bristol District in the city of Attleboro continue to be welcoming to new immigrants and new immigrant families? And what do you think of the concept of sanctuary cities?
Jim, you go first.
Immigration has become a very emotional issue for some people. Immigrants are part of our community. They pay taxes. They sometimes do jobs that other people don't want to do. They bring family values to the city. I would welcome people. The concept of sanctuary cities, I don't believe that's legal. I don't believe that there is such a thing. I don't support something like that. To fine-tune that, we do need to keep our police duties with limited resources to going after violent criminals, MS-13, groups like that. They do need to go after, but not immigrants whose paperwork isn't filled out right, who may have been in the city for 20 years and have a family and kids in the school. That I don't support.
Julie?
So I do believe that there should be pathways to citizenship. And because I believe that, I have worked with the Project Citizenship over at the Literacy Center and helped people fill out their applications. But as far as sanctuary states, I do oppose them. I don't support making Massachusetts a sanctuary state. If we can all remember, that wasn't too long ago that we had a horrendous experience here in our own country because law enforcement agencies were not working together with each other. And part of Sanctuary Cities, we need to make sure that our law enforcement agencies, all of them, can work together to protect us and keep us safe. And that's why I oppose Sanctuary Cities.
Bill Gouveia. Next question, Julie Hall will answer first, Jim Hawkins second.
Candace, what role does party play at this type of level? My own personal opinion is that at state rep level, most people vote for the candidate, more than the party. But party is important. What role in your minds does it play? What advantage or disadvantage do the parties offer? And how important is it in this role to be a Republican or a Democrat?
Yeah, I think when I first started running for this, or thinking about running, I was told, if you don't have a party, if you don't run for a party, you won't have the support of that party behind you. So I think it really is, when I mean support, that means people that are out there going to write letters to, friends and bring in money for you and so forth. So it's important from that perspective. But I think I've always shown myself to be an issues-based candidate, and I think that's what I'm going to continue to be. One of the things that is an advantage, though, is, we do have a governor here in the state of Massachusetts that is the most popular governor in the entire country. And being in that party with that governor and having been endorsed by that governor is not going to hurt Attleboro.
Jim, same question.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. What role does party play in at your level, at this level? How important is it to be a Republican or a Democrat?
Thank you, I remember it now. Sorry.
I almost forgot it. So,
At this level, a lot different than you would think. Some of what I've done already on Beacon Hill involves Republicans working with me to get the amendment through for the alternative to MCAS. I had as many Republicans sign the letter to Joint Committee as Democrats. I think at the State House, we respect each other's differences. It's a very polite environment. It's not as cutthroat as you read about in the paper in Washington, D.C. So to get into office, yes, it matters. It's perhaps a statement of your values, but in the State House, we do all work together. I think there's a range of views from conservative to progressive within the Democrat Party. There's different caucuses. There's a whole different group of people that work out the differences on any legislation that goes through. Much less partisan than people think.
The last question in this portion of the debate will be asked by Paul Healy. Jim, you'll answer first, followed by Julie.
Okay. So, Jim, if you're reelected, and Julie, or I should say Mr. Hawkins, if you're reelected, and Colonel Hall, if you win the position, what committees are you most interested in serving on in the House of Representatives, and why? And then if I could also sneak in there, just your one top piece of legislation or top issue that you want to promote or pursue.
My first?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So what committees would you like to serve on?
Committees that I'm on right now, is the Telecommunications, Utility, and Energy Commission, which has to do with gas pipeline safety and the Rehoboth Compressor Station. I would like to stay on that committee. I'm also in the Small Business Development and Economic Improvement Committee. As a small business owner, I recognize that small family-run businesses are part of the fabric of this community, and I would like to stay on that community. Do I have to pick? I only pick three. I'm on the Arts, Cultural Affairs, and Tourism Committee, and as I go to the Attleboro Community Theater and I think of the Art Museum, I think about some of the things that are in this city. I'd like to be on that. But also, I'd like to be on the Joint Committee for Education. There wasn't an opening. Those are three that I'm on now. There was not an opening when I was sworn in, but maybe there will be, and I'll certainly lobby for that, because I think I have a lot to offer in that committee as well, from my experience.
And then as of top priorities, I guess we could skip that because I'm sure you'll address that.
I said.
Later on.
I already said.
Yeah.
Julie.
Okay, so something people don't know is that I am also on a state-level committee. I'm on the Governor's Advisory Council for Veteran Services, and I was appointed by the governor to that. Very proud of that, to be able to represent our veterans. Locally, or let me just answer your question first. I am a hospital administrator, and that's what I did for 26 some odd years in the military. So I see the benefit of me being on the Healthcare Commission or Healthcare Committee. The healthcare is 54% of our state budget. People are concerned about Medicare. They're concerned about Medicaid. I have worked in the military with the Medicare and Medicaid program, so I always have some experience there. So that would be my priority. One of the things I'd like to do is I'd like to institute a senior tax freeze. There are 14 other states in the United States that have some kind of tax relief. Several of them have tax freezes. And one of the things I'd like to do is bring a senior tax freeze to this state. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to our two panelists. This is when it really gets good. This is when the candidates get to ask each other questions. I was in a devilish mood the first time I came up with this format 6 years ago. We do, just so you know how it works out, the candidate has 30 seconds to ask a question. And we say 30 seconds, it could be 35, 40, but we don't want it to be a 2-minute speech ending with a question. The candidate has 90 seconds to answer, and then the candidate that asked the question gets a chance to respond to the answer. It's always a lot of fun. First question will be asked by Julie Hall, addressed to who else? Jim Hawkins.
Okay, great. Jim, on your website, you say, and I want to quote you directly, "My opponent is retired from a military career with no experience in private industry, yet she claims to understand the needs of business owners." Do you think that military experience and experience with private industry are mutually exclusive?
I come from a background of owning a small business and managing another family-owned small business. I admire your military service, but I don't think that's the same as worrying about profit and loss, worrying about whether you can make the payroll each week, worrying about competition, worrying about losing customers. I think that's a whole different world. Small businesses that are family-run tend to think differently. They worry about, is their business going to be worth something to pass on to their children? They think long-term. It's a very different world. I taught small business management at Roger Williams. I think I bring considerable experience to the world of business in the community.
Okay.
Julie, you have 1 minute to respond.
Yes, and thank you for that. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything that you've done. So I just want to correct a mischaracterization that I have owned my own business. I have worked a large private sector contractor. I've worked with them, negotiated contracts with them on a regular basis. I personally helped 3 businesses in Attleboro, and I have the endorsement of the National Federation of Independent Businesses, who are recognizing me for my support of small businesses. So again, I thank you for your answer, but I just wanted to clarify that mischaracterization.
All right, Jim, it's your turn.
Wait a minute, this is my close, not the question. Colonel Hall, in 2016, you cast a deciding 5-4 vote for a budget that resulted in the layoff of over 30 teachers. You skipped 3 important votes on the construction of a new high school. How can we believe that you will advocate for the needs of Attleboro Public Schools?
You have 90 seconds.
Thank you. I really appreciate being able to answer this question. During the 2016 budget, that was a very, very tight budget. And in order to move more money over into the school, we would have had to take that from another department. The way I saw it, there were no other departments that if we took that from, that it wouldn't have caused a grave impact on their operations. When it comes to the school, one of the things I have done from the very beginning, I was part of the visioning committee from the very, very beginning. I have been an advocate of the new high school since even before they started talking with the architects, from the very beginning. I even went into Boston with the school committee to support them as they spoke to the Mass Municipal Building Association, School Building Association. So I've been an advocate of the new school, and everybody knows that.
Jim, you have 1 minute.
Okay, a budget's about priorities, and what happened after that budget is we have 35 students in a class at the high school. We have 30 students in middle school classes, and some of the elementary classes are 28 students. That's not acceptable. That's ignoring priorities of our children and our families in the city. You didn't quite answer my question about the voting, because the voting was not a conflict of interest. I think it's your duty to vote if you're elected to represent the city in the city council. And my support for education speaks for itself. Thank you.
Julie, you now get to ask a question of Jim.
Sure. As someone who is voting yes on question 1, how can you reconcile your commitment to solving the opioid crisis with the potential loss of behavioral health beds that would occur if question 1 were passed?
I think that there's a lot of conflicting reports coming from industry on this subject. The losses of beds is exaggerated. I come from the standpoint of workers who actually are waiting on people, bedside nurses, who have been already overburdened where they can't wait on the patients because they have too many patients under their care. The losses that are going to come to the hospitals, I think, are way overstated. I don't agree with that data at all.
Julie?
Yes, and I know there's definitely, this is a conflicting issue for a lot of people. However, I have talked with the doctors at Sturdy, and I can tell you they're very concerned about this very possibility and the impact of the opioid crisis. They're concerned here in Attleboro because they already consider it to be a difficult time accessing behavioral beds now, and the opioid crisis is just adding to that.
The final question will be asked by Jim to Julie, of course.
I got to respond a little bit to the last question. I was kind of confused how opioids has to do
And
with
do this as part of his 30 seconds, so it needs to be quick, followed by a question.
nursing staff shortage. The opioid, the lack of beds has to do with hospital reimbursement for mental health, not with nursing staff ratios. The mailing for your campaign, which I have right here, says that I oppose the sales tax holidays. Do you agree with this statement? And if not, are you willing to state that this mailing is a lie?
You made it under 30 seconds.
I knew it. I was gambling.
You were gambling. I wouldn't be willing to state that it's a lie, no. But I was under the understanding that you did not vote for the sales tax, the governor's sales tax. I do know that when it came to the budget overrides for the governor, that you went right in step with your entire party, and you went right down and you vetoed all of his overrides. That I do know.
Jim, 1 minute.
Okay, the votes are public records. I voted yes for the permanent sales tax holiday, and I voted yes for the tax holiday that wasn't included in that for 2018. So you didn't do your research on that, and I think you should not be promoting sending out mailings that are not accurate. The vetoes, some of the vetoes were $95,000 for victim assistance programs, $675,000 for unaccompanied homeless youth services. Then the very MCAS reform that I sponsored was vetoed by the governor. So yes, I did support overrides for his vetoes. They were not in agreement with what we voted for in the budget in the House of Representatives.
I want to thank the two of you. I feel like you both need a hug right now. So I'm going to do something I've never done before, and if you never take part in another debate I moderate, I'll understand. But I have a question that wasn't on the format. Bill asked a question in the first debate that I thought was great, and I think would be a great way to end this debate. It doesn't matter who jumps in first. We will time you, though, so you're not going on for 8 minutes. You know, we know a lot about you, you're public figures. Tell us something about yourself that we don't know that we'd be surprised to know. Something about not the candidate, but the person. Who wants to go first?
Oh, goodness.
Time for closing statements.
Well, this is not the closing statement.
Oh, no.
So one of the things two things that I found to be an advantage, and I never said this before when I was campaigning, is that I worked for a long time as a cold call salesman.
Wow.
I've called on auto body shops in southeastern New England. I probably called on 2,000 auto body shops that did not use the company I was working for. And I think it developed some personal skills for me that are useful working across the aisle in the State House. I'm working as well with Republicans as Democrats. And the simple answer is you just don't get in somebody's face. You learn to listen. You don't beat somebody up. You respect your differences. I never said that when I was running because I thought that was just a fun job. But it turns out to be an asset
I
for
thought you were going to say full of brush salesmen.
No,
That would be
I was
real
selling- No, I was selling collision parts to auto body shops.
Julie, what don't we know about you?
Something that a lot of people don't know about me is that my son, who is my son, came to live with me when he was 9 years old. He had a lot of difficulties growing up with my brother, who was his father, and that I took him on at 9 years old and raised him as a single parent while I was a commander of many, many troops. And he's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful child. He was a blessing to me, and he changed my life. He was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Thank you. I like you both so much better now than I did about 2 minutes ago. Time for our closing statements. This order was drawn as well. Julie, you will go first. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. You know, I'm a regular person, just like the rest of you. I've had many challenges and struggles in my life to overcome, just like all of you. I've raised my son as a single parent. Did I do everything right? I probably made some mistakes. Michael had a rough start in life, but we worked together as a team, and we both made it okay. Like most of you parents out there today, I can say my son Michael is the best thing that ever happened in my life, and I would have wanted him to have a community that is safe and has great schools. I had the opportunity to lead young men and women of all races, genders, sexual orientations in serving and protecting this country. I could not be more proud to have had that honor, and I hope that they would say that I was a good leader and a mentor. I hope that they would say I was able to take people from many walks of life and build a team that would work together towards a common goal with respect and care for each other as if our lives depended on it, because they did. Working with others for the common good is the cornerstone of public service, and I will take that ethic with me to Beacon Hill. Being stationed in different places around the world, I've seen many who are less fortunate than we are here in Attleboro, in Massachusetts, and in this country. Their circumstances were most would say and consider intolerable. Communities and schools are just plain impoverished, violent, and dangerous. I don't want to see that in this country, this state, or this city. I will not be swayed by personal agendas, and I will always work hard for the best interest of the people of Attleboro. I will be the person who fights for this community, who isn't beholden to special interest groups, but is beholden to the people of Attleboro. Being the best state representative I can be is my priority. I will do my best to understand how each policy or piece of legislation will affect my neighbors and friends. I've served my country. I've served this city as an effective leader. I would be honored to continue to serve you, to be your voice and your advocate on Beacon Hill, and thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Jim, 3 minutes.
Thank you to the Sun Chronicle. Thank you, Peter Gay, Bill Gouveia, Paul Healy, and thank you, Bridget Gay, for timing. And thank you, Colonel Hall, for a good exchange of ideas. My top issues are going to include public education funding and reforms to standardized testing. I want to advance the needs of Attleboro to deal with the opioid crisis. I want tax release for seniors on fixed income. I've already started legislation to provide the tax freeze for seniors with a Republican colleague at the State House. I want to continue to support public safety. I want to oppose construction of a compressor station by the Ponce and Hewitt Field. I want to promote gas pipeline safety, and I want to work to improve the state roads that are in Attleboro. I'm grateful for the opportunity to advocate for the needs of the community. I'm proud of what I've done so far in a short time in the State House, and I humbly ask for your vote on November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone. Hold on for one more minute. I want to thank everyone, certainly at AACS here this evening, televising live. People said to me, oh boy, there's no World Series game that night. When Craig and I talked about this debate 7 weeks ago, I said, let me go on the Major League Baseball website first, just in case the Red Sox get, and this was the travel day. And my fear was, with the storm that came in on Tuesday, they were going to get rained out and go head-to-head with our candidates forum this evening. So, and go Red Sox. AACS, of course, thanks. They will be replaying this throughout, along with the City Council debate, right up until November 5th. The Sun Chronicle, of course, great coverage leading up to and after the election. I want to thank the Election Commission and the people that work in the election office. If you were here earlier today and you come tomorrow, there's going to be voting booths set up, which they took down and will reassemble so that we could have this chance to meet our candidates. Most importantly, which reminds me, take advantage of the early voting if you can. I want to thank those of you at City Hall to give up a night to sit here for a couple hours, I think is absolutely sensational. And for those of you watching at home, thank you. If you're watching, there's a good chance you're going to vote. Hope you do, and then I hope you tune into AACS the night of election night, before you go to CNN and Fox to find out what's happening across the nation, to find out how these two people and the three gentlemen earlier this evening made out. Once again, thank you very much. Good job.